Chris said, I was here in the November meeting, and I want to tell you a little bit more about myself. As Chris may have mentioned, I was an assistant district attorney right here in the Catoosa County Courthouse for a number of years. Prosecuted some tough cases, put some bad people in jail, and I want you to know that Chris is a hero of mine. We prosecuted a case together, and he absolutely eviscerated a defendant on the stand. And it was one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen. And that bad, horrible human being who was doing terrible things to people in this community are no longer in that community. They're in jail now because of Chris, and that's what he does every day. So, yeah. So many of you knew me as an assistant district attorney, but I want to tell you a little bit about who I am. I grew up in North Georgia. I was born in Texas. My family was out there for a job. They were born actually in Northeast Georgia, and they brought me back there when I was a kid. I was raised in Helen, Georgia. I don't know if many of y'all have ever been to Helen, Georgia, a beautiful little alpine village up there in Northeast Georgia. So I'm a native North Georgian. I have a family that goes back and have been buried in these mountains for generations. I actually have a grandfather who lived to be 106 years old and is buried in these mountains. He actually fought in the Revolutionary War. So when I talk about I have deep roots in North Georgia, I mean it. This is where I'm from. This is where my family has been buried for generations. My wife and I, we bought a home in Northwest Georgia in Walker County in 2009. I was just finishing up law school, and I was going to do an active duty stint in the Air Force. And we kept our home here, our home of record, in Walker County while I was on active duty in the Air Force as a JAG officer, trying to put bad people in jail, because even the military can have bad people every once in a while. And so, how many of you have seen A Few Good Men? Have you seen that movie? Yeah. So I fought for the truth in the military for a long time. And I'll tell you a little bit about the story. While I was on active duty, I was diagnosed with cancer. And I'll come back to that. But I finished up my active duty stint and came back here and was lucky enough to get hired by Chris and Mr. Franklin to work as an assistant district attorney for the Lookout Mountain Judicial Circuit. So, as Marjorie mentioned, so many people ask the why you would even do this. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the why I'm stepping into this arena. It's something that's very personal to me. It's something that means a lot to me. So when I was 31 years old, I was an Air Force officer. I was stationed at Andrews Air Force Base. And I went to the hospital there. It's called Mountain Grove Hospital. And I went in for a routine checkup, and I was told that I had cancer. 31 years old. I had a 2-year-old daughter at the time. You want to talk about something that rocks your world? That does. I had to go through a 13-hour surgery at Walter Reed. Spent almost 2 weeks in the ICU there. I was isolated in a room, and I can remember looking out the window of Walter Reed Hospital, and I've been raised as a Christian, grown up in the Episcopal Church, and I was alone in that room. Finally, the nurses and doctors were leaving me alone for just a little bit, and I looked out the window, and I can still picture it now. Walter Reed's in Maryland, and the snow was pouring down, and I said, God, you don't owe me another day. I've had an incredible life. I have a beautiful wife. I have a daughter. But here's my promise. If I have another day, I'm heading home to the community I love, to the mountains that I love, to work on the problems that I knew this community was suffering. And it had been going on for decades. Many of you probably know people about my age who got caught up in the late 90s in the methamphetamine epidemic. And later on, it became the opioid crisis. We saw the ravages of what the Obama economy was doing at that time, because this was 2013 when I was saying that. I said, God, if you give me that opportunity, I'll head home. I got that opportunity, got to serve this community as an assistant district attorney, and that is what motivates me each and every day to come and serve the public of this community. So that's my origin story. That's my why. So what sets me apart from the other conservative candidates in this race? I didn't just support President Trump in 2016. I went to work for him. I was selected for a program called the White House Fellows Program. And I see Nancy there. She used to be a teacher at Fairland Elementary. That's where my daughter is in Walker County. She was in 2nd grade. What President Trump was doing was so important to me that I uprooted my entire family, moved them to Washington, D.C. to work for President Trump and Vice President Pence. That's how much what President Trump was working on meant to me and my family. I'm a true conservative, dating back to when I worked for former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich of the American Enterprise Institute. I'm pro-life. I'm pro-Second Amendment. I stand for traditional family values. But beyond that, I think many candidates are going to get up here and talk to you about that. But there are really three reasons that set me apart from the other candidates that may come and speak to you, and it's based on my experience. Those three issues are the opioid and meth epidemic, 2, prosperity creation, and 3, national security. Regarding the opioid and meth epidemic, no parent should ever face the circumstance where we're losing a child. But how many times have we seen this in this community? No child should have to grow up in these small mountain towns without a parent because of the scourge. It should never happen again. And I have the ideas, I have the solutions. I know what the federal government can do to fix that because I was with Vice President Pence and his wife Karen Pence, advising them on what the federal government can do to better help these communities. That was my work last year. We can end what we are suffering in this community. The mountains of case files that Chris Arndt has on his desk, what Sheriff Sisk sees every day and his law enforcement officers, what they deal with, we can end it if we send the right leaders to Washington, D.C. who can help President Trump on what he started with the opioid crisis. I have those ideas. I have that experience based on my experience as a prosecutor. Now, prosperity creation, that was essentially the main promise that I made to God. Because I was tired of seeing so many of my peers, when we were growing up in the 90s, in the late 2000s, they left all these small town communities, and Patrick, I talked to you about this. They left all these small town communities, and where did they go? They went to Atlanta, they went to Birmingham, they went to Nashville, and some of that talent never came back. How many of you have an elementary student that you know, you love, you care for? Let me see hands. How many people know an elementary school student? I'm concerned that that elementary school student won't have a 21st century job that can keep them in this community, right here in Ringgold. The economy is changing. The 21st century is going to change everything. If you think about, if you know any truck drivers, that's a great job that you can make money and raise a family on. Automation is coming. What are we going to do as a community if we don't send the right leaders to win the 21st century? If you go to my website, www.claytonfuller.com, you'll see my slogan, Win the Greatness Frontier. What that means is, what the election in 2016 stood for, was that President Trump put us on the cusp of making the 21st century another American century. Do you think that was possible before? How many of you, show of hands, trust millennials and Generation Z? I'm getting last. We got one back there. Are you in Marjorie's campaign? Yeah. All right. I am too. But here's the thing. That can be turned if we're sending the right leaders to Washington, D.C. Because we need 21st century jobs to bring prosperity to every community. Do you think D.C. is concerned about that? The rural communities? That is why President Trump spoke to us. He listened to us. He cared about us. He knew about our problems. But he's only going to be there for 4 more years. We have to have leaders who can pick up the baton that President Trump has started and run with it through the 2020s, into the 2030s, to win the greatness frontier. Opioid and meth, combating opioid and meth, prosperity creation. The last point, and this is what I came to speak to you about in November, and I think I scared a lot of y'all. Did your kids delete TikTok? They need to. National security. I've spent a decade in national security as an Air Force officer, and how many of you saw that we lost some service members in AFRICOM in Kenya? Those losses are personal to me. That's what I worked on last year as a Trump appointee. That was my desk. I worked for the Secretary of Defense on Kenya and Africa issues. The current National Security Advisor, Ambassador Robert O'Brien, I planned trips for him to the AFRICOM AOR. We went to some of the most dangerous embassies, so when an embassy is under attack, I know what those resources are. I know what the challenges that they face because I've taken the most senior Trump administration officials to some of the most dangerous parts of this world. I know the challenges that we face. This is not a time to send people to Washington, D.C. that have no national security experience. As you see with Soleimani, all the repercussions from that, you need leadership in Washington, D.C. And then what I came to talk to you about last time, I encourage each and every one of you, before you leave here, and I know in the last discussion, I think Chris was the only one that had heard about it, the Belt and Road Initiative. Please, if you write anything down, walk out of here and research anything, the Belt and Road Initiative. I am not exaggerating when I say that 1930s are to 2020s as Nazi Germany is to the Communist Party of China. That is the kind of threat that we are facing, and we have to wake up to it as a people. And the only person who has finally stood up to that is President Trump. We have to have leaders to carry on what President Trump has done. I have the experience as a prosecutor to fix the opioid and meth epidemic at the federal level. I have the experience and care about these communities that I live in and will raise my family in to fix the economic challenges that we face and create prosperity for these communities. The national security environment, whether it's counterterrorism, whether it's China, whether it's the threat that immigration poses, I will be there in the House to support President Trump against all comers. I'm asking for your support as a native of North Georgia and these mountains and this community where I've worked for a long time. I'm asking for your vote. And I'm asking each and every one of you to help me win the greatness frontier. Thank you.